Welcome back to the School Transportation Nation podcast. I'm Ryan Gray, Editor-in-Chief at School Transportation News, filling in for our publisher, Tony Corpin. He's enjoying some spring break with his family. Bringing on Taylor Hannon, our Associate Editor, who's going to join me today. This podcast episode is brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software, and our tech tip today is brought to you by Zonar, a leader in smart fleet management. And coming up a little bit later, we're going to be joined by mindfulness coach Holly Duckworth, who's fresh off her appearance at our recent Virtual Transportation Director Summit. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Hey, hello. It's great to be here. I'm doing well. It's actually my first podcast appearance of 2021, so that's exciting.
Wow, that time is fun. I know you came in several of our podcasts last year, so it's great to have you join us back again. So Taylor, a lot going on out there. We know that a lot of folks are getting vaccinated. Nearly 20% of the U.S. population is now fully vaccinated, about 2% up in Canada. The eligible ages for vaccines are dropping. What are you hearing right now, Taylor?
Yeah, I actually saw that New York approved anyone over the age of 16 to get the vaccine. And then it looks like California is kind of in the same boat. I think as of this week, maybe anyone 16 and older would be able to get it. So that's exciting. I mean, it definitely, schools are opening back up in California. My younger brother actually just went back to school for the first time last week, 2 weeks ago. And I mean, it was a year of virtual learning for him. So it's so great to see him leave the house, go to school, and have that social interaction.
And so many people have already seen a lot of their students back. Some places have been back full time since August, places like in Wyoming and Idaho and different places, Montana. And certainly something that we've seen is so much of this COVID-19 has been, the closures have been based upon the local rate. So the more rural you get, ostensibly, the fewer cases. But, back to the vaccines, President Joe Biden said last week that he wants all Americans to be vaccinated by April 19th. So that certainly fits in with California's plans. Originally, President Biden had said beginning of May. So, ramping that up. Back to California, Governor Gavin Newsom here announced last week that he expects the state will be able to fully reopen on June 15th. That is, if current vaccinations rates continue. And of course, people maintain social distancing, keep wearing their masks. Anytime that you see the amusement parks reopen, Disneyland has announced their reopening in May. Just this past week, my wife and I bought annual passes again for our daughter to go to Legoland. So now we know that the light truly at the end of the tunnel is getting a lot brighter. But we have to remember that not everybody wants this vaccine. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says that 80% of all teachers and childcare workers have received at least one vaccination. So that's about 8 million people. But last month, the Pentagon reported that about a third of all U.S. service personnel have refused the vaccine. So still a ways to go there. But again, I think that folks are getting a lot more confident. You're talking to a lot of folks out there, Taylor, and engaging what folks are doing in their operations. A lot of states have gone about removing the mask mandate, right? And up till now, it really has not changed schools. Schools still require their students to wear the masks, have them on the buses, in the classrooms, but that could be changing. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, actually, I think I saw that 10 states now have kind of removed that mask mandate. I want to say it's, Arkansas, Indiana, Montana, kind of some of those states, Mississippi, North Dakota, they're kind of lessening that mask mandate. And I actually reached out to a school district in Montana, and they have gone away with the mask on the school bus. They haven't had a new positive COVID-19 case in about 3 months. They're feeling very confident in their mitigation strategies and their cleaning. And so they actually have went away with the mask mandate. A couple other districts in a couple other states I've been talking to that did remove the mask mandate, they're still requiring it on the school bus, but it's kind of all being determined as a weekly basis, of course. So things could start to shift in the other direction. Maybe masks are going to become not as mandatory on school buses.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably still see a lot of people wear masks. Certainly, after a lot of us have invested in our nice, pretty fashion statements. Again, I think folks are getting more confident. So, certainly looking like it's going to be ramping up until a mostly normal restart for the 21-22 school year. So, we hope. Want to now segue to today's tech tip brought to you by Zonar, a leader in smart fleet management. The fleet tech you add now will shape how your fleet will run next year and the year after that. Outfit each bus to protect everyone on board. Ask a Zonar expert about electronically verified inspections and sanitizations. Support contact tracing and protect students from getting on the wrong bus and making wrong stop mistakes. And communicate clearly with parents through a free mobile app. Move forward with what your riders need. Learn more at zonarsystems.com/protect. That's zonarsystems.com/protect. So Taylor, what else is going on at stnonline.com right now with our reporting?
Lots of good things, Ryan. We recently posted an article that is kind of looking at transporting pre-K students via the school bus. I feel like it's a little precursor to the seatbelt issue in May, so everyone check that out. But Charlie Vitz, he's a certified child passenger safety technician, and he kind of said Indiana is the only state that has a law requiring the use of a child safety restraint system in school buses for pre-K transportation. So what I'm thinking is, are they just putting 1-year-olds on seats and letting them roll around? Probably not. I don't advocate for that. Definitely not saying school districts are doing it. They probably have their own, requirements and regulations on transporting pre-K students, but Indiana is actually the only state that has a law.
Yeah, that article you're referencing was written by Debbie Curtis, and folks can find that on stnonline.com and go into our special report section. And certainly a lot of states have guidelines, right? But there's a difference between a guideline, which is basically a recommendation, and a state law. And really what she was also looking at too was the need for training, because there are so many of these guidelines. And I do think that, most school districts out there are putting their students, their pre-K students, in a car seat, whether it be rear facing for an infant or forward facing for a toddler. You don't want to be putting booster seats on school buses per se, but there are products out there that work with the school bus seat, because a school bus seat obviously is different than a passenger car seat. But that training is really necessary. And talking to the team that instructs our NHTSA 8-hour child passenger safety on school buses, which Charlie Vitz, you mentioned, he's one of those instructors. They tell us some pretty crazy horror stories of things that they have seen or heard from some of these attendees who are using bungee cords and whatnot. So unfortunately, it's, we can't say that everyone across the nation is doing it correctly. A lot of it is just not knowing. So that importance of training really comes to the forefront. So with that NHTSA approved course, I should say, we provide that in a normal year during when we have our in-person conferences at both STN Expos in Reno and Indianapolis, as well as at the TSD conference, which are coming back this fall. So we can't wait. It's been, over a year and a half, really, or maybe even 2 years since a lot of folks have been able to get that training. So I know a lot of people are thirsty for knowledge. Also, some unique buses and unique transportation out there that you're looking at.
Yeah, and I know we reported on, the creative use of school buses when the pandemic first started, right? School buses as mobile hotspots, food deliveries, that kind of thing. But now I'm seeing even more creativity. We have a story at stnonline.com about a Massachusetts 6th grade science teacher at Lowell Public Schools. And he was actually a teacher who struggled with reliable internet when school shut down last March. We talked a lot about the students, but this teacher was doing lessons out of his car parked at a local library. He ended up buying an old shuttle bus, just kind of for more space, but he renovated it into a camper. And throughout the pandemic, he took his students, virtually, of course, to Cape Cod, the zoo, these very unique locations that he wouldn't be able to do, during a normal school year, as some of these places are, up to 3 hours away. So I thought that was a really creative use, to utilize the pandemic almost as a way to bring new information to students and a creative way to utilize a shuttle bus in the process.
Yeah, a lot of unique things coming about because of COVID-19. We've certainly reported on a lot of that, from an operational standpoint. But it's great to see the school bus being used in different ways, not just for student transportation, certainly because a lot of these buses have been grounded for a year or more. But, lo and behold, it seems like I said earlier, it seems like we're getting back to a place where we can say, "Hey, school's gonna restart and restart somewhat normal." Can't believe it's that time, and our friends at TransFinder are ready to help. Don't let going back to school get you nervous. TransFinder has put together a very special back to school pro services package. This comprehensive and customized plan gets you up and running with the safest and most efficient routes. The specially priced plan includes cleaning up your data, importing new data, and communicating with your community. This is the perfect time to look at TransFinder's Back to School Pro Services package. Let the pros at TransFinder bring some peace of mind to you and your school community. Simply call 800-373-3609. That's 800-373-3609, or email marketing@transfinder.com to learn more. Well, Taylor, coming up next, we have our mindfulness expert, Holly Duckworth. Stay tuned. Want to welcome to the School Transportation Nation stage, Holly Duckworth. She is a leadership teacher, life coach, and certified workplace mindfulness facilitator. Those of you who were a part of our Transportation Director Summit, the virtual summit that we did a couple of weeks ago, you heard Holly talk about mindfulness. She took the folks through some exercises. Holly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Brian, it's absolutely my joy to have the chance to connect to you and share these practices and principles with your audience that was both able to be at the summit and that expanded audience that's a listener here to your podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I learned so much from your presentations over the 2 days, and it really got me thinking. I have a daughter who turns 6 next month, and for most of her life, she has learned from Sesame Street and whatnot, if something happens, take a deep breath and count to 5. That's ultimately what you are really talking about. But why as adults do we forget that lesson that we learned as kids and we get so stressed out?
Yeah, that old adage, everything we ever needed to know we learned in kindergarten seems appropriate at this time, but I think our pre-pandemic life, we were really conditioned not to feel, and we were conditioned to be on that hamster wheel. How fast can we go? In my book, it's called Everyday Mindfulness: From Chaos to Calm in a Crazy World. The opening paragraph says, we live in a world of bigger, better, faster, and more. And the world as it was then was no longer sustainable. And so while this pandemic certainly has a whole long list of challenges that come with it, it is also an opportunity for us to look at what are those traits and practices that we want to have as we all are reinventing and recreating our lives.
And something that resonated with me in your talks. Well, first of all, you have that voice. You have that Zen voice, and almost kind of puts you to sleep in a good way, right? For a speaker, I'm sure speakers don't want to hear, "Oh, you put us to sleep." But with the whole mindfulness thing, you have that tone that just is peaceful and it just kind of grounds you. So I really took a lot from that. It was nice during Transportation Director Summit just to take those few minutes and focus on my breathing and to just kind of let myself be. And that's something that you said, let yourself be in the moment and recognize how you feel, and don't let that, distract you. Just accept what you are feeling and what you are. Where did you learn this? What is your background?
Well, Ryan, for 1 second, I want to preface this to give a little frame to your listeners in terms of the word mindfulness, because sometimes this word is a word kind of like Amazon. Remember when Amazon was that place that, you went to in the, Amazon jungle? Well, now it's a place that we go shopping in the jungle. And so mindfulness is kind of a word like that mindfulness is often misunderstood. So I think let's just reset for a second and give people a common definition of it. So
Sure.
Mindfulness has evolved. For some people, it used to be, you had to go on an ashram and, sit on a mountaintop. But but really since the early 1970s, mindfulness has been going mainstream. And the definition is really mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment with non-judgment. And these practices are both neuroscience-based and secular. And I think because we are meeting today in a little bit of a business frame, I always like to make sure people understand from the get-go what this is so that you can become open and curious and willing to discover how these principles relate to your life. So with that, Ryan, I'll just say in terms of my own journey to mindfulness, I feel so fortunate in that my work really started out in some of the most high-stress industries. Certainly, your members can relate to that. I was a meeting and event planner for 20 years and loved that work, but it was just so exhausting. And I kept running from meeting and event planning. And, sadly, I had a life reset. I divorced my husband, quit my job. I sometimes say the brochure was wrong. That we're trained. The more you work, the more you achieve, the better your life is. But what I came to realize as a result of those chapters of my life going away was this sense of presence, and that our presence is the greatest present. So I smile that you find my voice so soothing. I think part of it is the voice, but it's also, I hope that when people work with me as a coach, as a speaker, as an author, as a trainer, that they know that they have my full presence and focus to support them in exploring where they're at right now and then what they want to create personally and professionally.
So you've lived this, and certainly I'm working on events, and I work closely with our events team. So I think we took, as I mentioned earlier, a lot from your conversation, but you've been there and done that. So it's one thing hearing from some Swami or something saying, oh, you need to be mindful. And I'm glad that you talked about that, because I wanted to ask you about that. What is mindfulness? Because I think a lot of people think that it has to be yoga. It has to be going out into the mountains somewhere for a week and not eating and just drinking water or burning sage and incense. But it's really more than that. And that's what you brought forward at the Transportation Director Summit, that certainly those can be elements of mindfulness, but you can practice mindfulness every day, and we really should be.
Well, I'm always careful of the word should. We don't want to should on ourselves, but we want to step into a greater invitation. And that's always the gentle nudge that I get to bring to people is these things can be applied practices infused into your life periodically through the day. And even before the pandemic, I was sort of the hand washer, and I always utilize that as one micro mindfulness practice. People tell me all the time, Holly, I can't be mindful. I don't have time. Well, do you brush your teeth? Do you wash your hands? Do you do some of these daily practices? With your audience, I know so many of you are running from meeting to meeting, might be in person or online, or you might even be in a bus making transportation for kids happen. Something as simple as, setting triggers in your day that say, when I jump in that seat, I'm going to take that 5-second breath. I'm going to feel myself sitting in the seat, and I'm going to feel the seat supporting me, and just take that pause to even visualize the ease of the drive that you're taking, of that route of the work that you're doing. That's, an example for somebody on the front line. But again, if you're in another role and you're, sitting at your desk, when you grab that coffee in the morning, you just take that minute and be grateful. I know your members are so passionate about the work that they do, but starting that day from that place of gratitude, visualizing what you want to have happen, and then be excited to see how that unfolds. The more and more we practice it, just like we brush our teeth and we wash our hands many times throughout the day, we get to do these practices as well.
So you hit on it right there. So you have to practice at it. Just like anything, if you want to get good at something, you got to practice. So what better time, I thought, than right now? Could you take us through a quick mindfulness exercise? For those that did not tune in at the Transportation Director Summit a couple weeks ago, what can people do in their everyday life to just be mindful for that 5 minutes, like you said, or maybe 10 minutes?
Well, Ryan, thank you for this opportunity. I really want people to remember that it's a practice, not a perfect. And it's an opportunity every day to just get 1% better. So with that, I think we could move into a practice. I'm going to pick a very introductory practice. I'm going to call this a body scan practice. I'm a certified workplace mindfulness facilitator. So all of these practices are neuroscience-based and secular. So wherever you are, just take a moment to become fully present, alert to that space. Maybe just take a moment to be in a position that's both comfortable and alert for you. Choose if you want to keep your eyes open, if you want to close them or cast your eyes down. Know in your mindfulness practice you cannot do it wrong. So knowing that you've found that position, just invite you to take a breath in and a breath out. Maybe let your shoulders drop. Come present into the space that you are in. We will bring our awareness in this guided body scan to our shoulders. Just bring your awareness to the shoulders. Breathing in and out, knowing there's nothing to change or nothing to fix. Sensations, warmth, cooling, whatever it is, just simply allow it to be. We often hold our stress in our shoulders. Listen to the body, might be calling for you to wiggle or stretch. Send a cooling, healing breath to the shoulders. Knowing in your industry that you are often utilizing your arms and your hands, I just invite you in this body scan to take a moment, breathe in, and on the exhale, breathe down into your arms and your elbows and your forearms. With curiosity and compassion, just breathe in and out through your arms, giving thanks for their ability to help you do the work that you do in the world. And now we move our awareness down into our hands, allowing us to drive or type or text. Just take a moment and breathe. Center gratitude for each and every finger. With each breath, bring awareness to your pinky, your ring finger, middle finger, pointer finger, and your thumb. And as we move through this upper body scan, just invite you to have gratitude for the breath. And knowing that this short mindfulness practice is a practice of self-care that you can access periodically throughout the day. And as we come to a close of this practice, bring your focus back to the breath at the center of your heart, giving thanks for this heart work you get to do for yourself, for your company, for your industry, and for this association. When you are ready, open your eyes, come back to the place that you are, knowing that mindfulness is self-care, and from this self, you are able to do your best in the world. Remember, mindful matters, and so do you.
Wow, I'm ready to take a nap now. That's not that was great. Thank you. Like I said, it's very relaxing and something that I've been cognizant of, especially since you spoke a couple of weeks ago, of when those stresses happen, because they happen all the time, and certainly our audience knows that as good as anybody. But just trying to catch yourself and just be who you are, but be who you want to be and really focus on that. So just trying to take those breaths and just kind of be in the moment. So thanks, Holly. Again, you got such great content out there. People can check you out. Where can they find you online?
Well, thanks for asking, Ryan. I think we just want to, end today remembering, mindfulness is the practice of being present in the moment with non-judgment. And in a world right now where there's just so much to judge, I believe this, I don't believe this, I agree with this, I don't agree with this, giving yourself this opportunity to pause, make the decisions you need to make for yourself, let others make those great decisions, and just keep coming back to self. The easiest way to reach me is just hollyduckworth.com. You'll find a few more of these audio recordings there if you want to continue to visit the practice. And as I mentioned in the class, I'll mention again, there's a mindful mini poster there. It's a complimentary download. It's at hollyduckworth.com under tools and resources. So feel free to download that and just continue to practice this at home, at work, and with your teams. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Holly. Holly Duckworth, leadership teacher, life coach, and certified workplace mindfulness facilitator. And we didn't even get into former New York Times contributor, so we're going to have to tap that expertise as well for the magazine and the website. I want to thank Holly and Taylor for joining us on this podcast. Please visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis on COVID-19, stimulus funding, and everything else affecting the school bus industry. And remember to sign up for the Green Bus Summit at greenbussummit.com. That's coming up soon. Thanks to all our listeners. Subscribe, stream, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, stnpodcast.com, or wherever you listen. See you next week.